She thought she'd stolen nearly $600,000 from me and sent the proof with a smile. I'm Miles Hartley. I'm a commercial architect, 44 years old, based in Savannah, Georgia. This is the story of how my wife tried to disappear with my inheritance and how she walked straight into a trap she never saw coming. It all started with an email. No greeting, no explanation, just one sentence. I've moved your inheritance into my personal account. It's better this way. Attached, a blurry photo. My wife, Kendra, standing on a balcony at sunset. I closed my laptop, walked into the kitchen, poured a glass of water, and stared out the back window, glass of wine in hand, smiling in a way she hadn't smiled at me in years. Beside her, a man I didn't recognize, a beard, long hair, smug look on his face. They looked like they were celebrating something. Spoiler, they were. I didn't reply. Not right away. She was launching her brand, organic products, yoga retreats, the whole niche, and needed someone to design her first brick-and-mortar space. That backyard, we built it together. Stone path laid by hand, hydrangeas along the edges. We'd spent an entire summer out there, designing something we thought would last. Funny how the things you build out of love become the first places haunted by betrayal. Quick and brutal. I took 6 months of partial leave to be with her in Atlanta. Kendra visited twice. Her reason: bought a Craftsman on Victory Drive with a wraparound porch she'd always dreamed of. No kids, her choice. She always said the business was her baby. I respected that. The inheritance was structured carefully in a trust, locked up tight. She left me a note, handwritten on thick stationery. Kendra and I had been married 12 years. We met at a wellness expo in Charlotte. I was 5 years into my career, mostly doing commercial work. She started asking questions, not about Elaine, but about account access, where the funds were held, why we had so many different accounts. At first it was a weekend here, a long weekend there. Then it was full weeks, Sedona, Santa Fe, Scottsdale, nothing flashy, just office parks and parking decks. But I was hungry for something different. 8 solid years of building a life together. I designed, she grew her brand. We traveled, hosted dinner parties. We looked great from the outside. I'd ask questions. She'd change the subject, and honestly, I thought we were good on the inside too. We clicked, or at least, I thought we did. 3 years later, we were married, settled in Savannah. Transactions I didn't recognize, but small enough not to trigger alarms. I wasn't sure what I was looking at yet, but I knew I needed help, and for a while, it worked. They didn't pass security. I just nodded, thanked him for the bread, and filed the information away. Mid-conversation, he mentioned seeing a grey Tesla dropping her off one night. Met with Rita Wallace, Elaine's longtime attorney, and now mine. If someone tries to breach it, it's fraud, period. I laid out everything I'd noticed. No accusations, just facts. But looking back now, the cracks had been forming long before I saw that email. My aunt Elaine, the woman who raised me after my parents died, passed away from cancer about a year ago. Hospitals depress me. I didn't push it. Everyone handles grief differently. Or so I told myself. When Elaine passed, she left me everything. Her house, her savings, and a surprising amount of investments. Almost $600,000 in total. Build something that lasts. Kendra's reaction to the money wasn't emotional. It was strategic. Wouldn't it be smarter to consolidate everything? She asked over dinner one night. I played dumb, said I'd think about it, but I already knew something was off. Around that time, she started going on more retreats. Her phone, always face down. Password changed. She'd smile less, talk less. 3 months ago, a neighbor Frank dropped by with some bread his wife had baked. Thought you were out of town, he said. I was. 3-day industry event in Boston. I didn't press him for details. Then came the financial red flags. Our shared accounts started getting locked. Password resets. So I reached out to Jerry, our financial advisor, and told him to keep an eye on any unusual movement, especially around the trust. A week later, I got a call. Someone tried accessing the trust using your personal info, he said. I asked, which accounts? He said exactly what I expected, the inheritance. So I drove back to Atlanta. Rita didn't flinch. She leaned back in her chair and said, your aunt structured the trust as irrevocable. Even your spouse can't touch it. If someone tries to breach it, it's fraud. Timestamps. I didn't have to do anything but wait. She kissed me on the cheek and said she might extend this one. Period. We set up monitoring. Silent alerts. Every attempted login would trigger an automatic report. IP addresses, devices, we kept everything there. Tax docs, renovation plans, travel light. We were supposed to start updating the house this year. When I got home, Kendra was packing for another retreat. Really want to dive deep into the practice, she said, avoiding eye contact. I helped her carry her bags to the car. The photo, no greeting, no explanation, just theft in plain text. When she pulled away, I went back inside and opened our cloud drive. In a folder marked Home Reno Ideas, I found what I was looking for: screenshots of my accounts, transfer instructions, handwritten notes explaining how to work around verification prompts. She'd been planning this for months. Thomas Webb, smartsharp.com. Reader joined via video call. 5 days later, her email came through. The transfer claim, no commentary needed. I responded with a single line: "Thanks for letting me know. I'd already set the trap." Then I called Rita and Jerry and forwarded the email. I met with a divorce attorney that same afternoon. They both agreed. What she attempted wasn't just betrayal. It was she thought I'd roll over, accept the betrayal, maybe even beg her to come home. "File for divorce now," Thomas said. "Cite financial misconduct." And that's exactly what I did. Rita, my aunt's lawyer, joined again via video. We laid it all out: the screenshots, the passwords she wasn't supposed to have, the photos, the Arizona apartment she hadn't mentioned. She thought it was over. Professional. What she didn't realize was ... a lot of it. The day after I filed for divorce, Kendra finally reached out, not with an apology, not to explain, just a text. "Did you get my email?" I kept it cold. "Yes." That was it. Minutes later, another text. "That's all you have to say." I didn't answer. Instead, I was already on my way to meet Thomas, my divorce attorney, downtown. Every single move Kendra had made was traceable. The attempted access to the trust, all of it formed a paper trail she could never erase. "Your case is solid," Thomas said. "This is more than just a messy divorce. This is premeditated financial misconduct." That gave me leverage. By noon that same day, she called me. "I've got David Lawrence handling things on my end. You'll hear from him soon." "No hi, no how are you, just, you're being childish." I didn't say anything. "This doesn't have to be a fight, Miles." This time, it was traced back to a Scottsdale IP address. I let the silence stretch before finally responding. "I agree." She relaxed. I could hear it in her voice. "The money's already moved. There's no point wasting more of it on lawyers. I've got someone drafting a settlement." I asked her where she was staying. That caught her off guard. "What does that matter?" "Just wondering where you're calling home now." She pushed back into lawyer speak. "Let's focus on the financials." That was the first smart thing she'd done, lawyering up. But even that move came too late, because at 6:00 p.m. that evening, Rita called with an update. She tried again. 3 separate attempts to transfer funds from the trust, all blocked, all logged. This time, it was traced back to a Scottsdale IP address. "She's not in Sedona like she said," Rita noted. Then came something even more revealing. Access logs from a month earlier showed someone using our home Wi-Fi to pull account details, export documents, and review transfer methods. She hadn't just planned this. She'd done it in my house, on my network, on our couch, probably. I asked the branch manager, Harold, to walk me through our recent activity. The next day I went to Brightstone Bank, where we'd kept our joint accounts. His face changed as he scrolled the transactions. "There's been a lot of movement." "How much?" He turned the monitor toward me. "Regular transfers. $2,000 here, $3,500 there." Then suddenly, $47,000 in one go. All of it funneled to an external account at a place I'd never heard of, Northern Lakes Credit Union. "This account's in her name only," Harold added. "Opened 8 months ago. The address linked to it. An apartment in Scottsdale." She'd been preparing her exit long before I received that email. I had Harold print 6 months of bank activity. Every transaction was another nail in the coffin of her story. That afternoon, I met Thomas again. We sat across from each other, poring over documents. "She's been siphoning money for months," he said, "using your joint funds to build a new life, somewhere else." Just then, his assistant entered. "David Lawrence is on the line." Thomas picked up. "Yes." Lawrence's tone had changed. "I've seen the documents your client sent. It appears my client may have misrepresented some things. Thomas didn't let him off easy. Misrepresented is generous. She committed attempted fraud, and she left a trail. We'd like to discuss revised terms, Lawrence said quietly. I knew what that meant. They were panicking. I was sitting at my kitchen counter that evening, eating a cold sandwich, when another thought hit me. Who was the man in that photo? Not because I was jealous, not because I wanted revenge. I just needed the full picture. I texted her, "Who is he?" 20 minutes passed. This isn't about him. Name, another, pause. Jason Barkley. I searched. Found him instantly. Former investment broker, now yoga instructor at a studio in Scottsdale. His LinkedIn bio proudly stated, "Left finance to pursue purpose." He had a smug smile even in his profile pic. I showed the photo to Frank, our neighbor, the guy who'd seen someone dropping her off. Frank nodded. "Yeah, that's him. I've seen that Tesla here a few times." We added Frank's statement to the file, notarized and time-stamped. 3 days later, Thomas called. "The kind of guy you bring in when you want to go scorched earth. We've got a complication. She's hired Philip Barnes. Let's give him something to work with." Says his client has evidence that the financial decisions were mutual. That name I knew. Big name litigator. He's requested an emergency hearing. Monday morning. Perfect, I said. Thomas and I put together a package. All the access logs, transfer attempts, account statements, the Scottsdale lease, Frank's testimony, screenshots of her own planning documents, everything. By Friday, Barnes requested a meeting. Not court, not arbitration, just a quiet discussion, off the record. He's seen the truth, Thomas told me. He knows this won't go well in front of a judge. I had my counteroffer ready. She gives back half of what she took from the joint accounts. She signs an NDA. I won't file charges. You sure? Thomas asked. You could get a lot more. I don't want more. I want done. The morning of the hearing that never happened, she walked into the courthouse looking like someone who hadn't slept in days. Her lawyer did all the talking. She did all the nodding. And when it was over, she walked away with a warning, not a win. If you're ready for part 3, I'll tell you how it ended. The check she mailed. The foundation I built with her failed theft. And what happened the night I finally chose to start over. Let me know when to begin. They walked into the courthouse with the confidence of people who still thought they had something to negotiate. But they were too late. The evidence had already done the talking. Inside, I waited, the final agreement in a folder on the table. Kendra didn't look at me once. Her attorney Barnes, Mr. Heretiner himself, spoke in hushed tones with Thomas just outside the meeting room. She sat down, silent. Barnes spoke for her. My client accepts the terms. No claim on the inheritance. No contest on the asset. And she would return $89,275, half of what she had drained from our joint accounts. She also agreed to sign a non-disclosure agreement. No interviews, no podcasts. Not from fear Kendra doesn't fear consequences, but maybe from finally realizing this was real. No memoirs about the mindful exit from her marriage. She wanted clean. This was clean. As she signed the papers, her hands trembled slightly. Permanent. Really looked. What's this? She asked, pointing to a small envelope I slid across the table. Passwords, I said. Cloud storage, house alarm, garage code. Everything you might need for whatever you left behind. That was the only time she looked at me. I met her gaze. It was never about the money. I said, calm but certain, that would have been easy. I hope they never find a reason to second-guess each other. No reply. Barnes stood, collected his papers, and led her out. She clutched that envelope like it weighed 50 pounds. She never looked back. I sold the house. The one with the hydrangeas. The one we'd rebuilt together. Or pretended to. A young couple bought it. 2 kids. A Labrador. Dreams bigger than their square footage. I moved into a downtown loft smaller. Quieter. Mine. Rita helped me restructure the inheritance into something better. A foundation in my Aunt Elaine's name supporting architectural scholarships for kids who lost their parents, just like I had. Our first recipient, a 17-year-old girl from rural South Georgia. She wrote about designing buildings that make people feel safe again. Her words hit me in the chest, Rita said. Elaine would have adored her. She would have. Elaine always believed legacy wasn't about wealth. It was about impact. That belief had kept me grounded when everything else was breaking apart. One afternoon, I checked my mail and found an envelope. No return address. Inside, A check, exactly $89,275. No note, no apology, no name. She could have kept the money, and I wouldn't have chased it, but she didn't. That told me something. Maybe guilt finally caught up to her. Maybe Jason left. Maybe her reflection started asking questions she couldn't answer. Or maybe, like me, she was just ready to close the door. I deposited the check into the foundation account the next morning. Another scholarship, another blueprint for someone else's future. A text from Jerry, my firm's financial advisor. I'm bringing that architect I told you about. That night, I walked down to the riverfront, the place where, years ago, Kendra and I had once imagined opening a business together. My designs, her wellness empire. None of that happened, but I sat there anyway, watched the cargo ships drift across the water, and thought about how many lives carry quiet betrayals that no one sees. We always assume betrayal breaks us, but sometimes it's what frees us. My phone buzzed. Dinner's still on for 7, right? Is stay silent when you're expected to scream. Stay calm when the storm is begging for drama, and walk away not because you're weak, but because you've finally remembered who you are without them. I smiled. Just enough time to change and walk to the restaurant. Just enough time to decide to keep saying yes to whatever came next. I've had more like I treat life, unfiltered, and focused on what comes after the fallout. No grand declarations, no cinematic endings, just a quiet restart. Because sometimes, the most powerful response to betrayal isn't revenge. It's rebuilding. If you made it this far, let me leave you with this. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do. If this story hit home, stick around. Subscribe if you haven't already. We're just getting started.